You previously painted this picture of there's being a three horse race in AI. Like there's China, there's the US, and then there's the dark horse of the decentralized effort. Should AI researchers, people like me, should we learn more about blockchain? What are we missing by not learning about that?
Well, a couple of things. So first of all, like I mentioned before, the largest computer in the world is Bitcoin, right? So on the back of incentives, right? Get people to do stuff by giving them tokens, right? And by giving them, the thing that gives them is just, it's a machine. It's sort of its own artificial life form, if you will, that's just out there living, right? Ralph Merkle, the inventor of the Merkle tree, a famous cryptography model, if you will, he actually famously wrote about Bitcoin as a life form. And I think that's actually apt. And others too. I took that framing to Santa Fe Institute, this think tank on complexity science and artificial life, actually, and they saw it, and they largely agreed with it too, actually. So the reason I'm saying this, though, is if Bitcoin is the biggest computer in the world on the back of these incentives as a superpower, then and that idea can get extended to other things, and we've already seen it extended to other things. For example, there's a 5G network getting rolled out across USA right now on the power of incentives from a project called Helium Network, and there's many more things like this, right? Decentralized physical infrastructure, etc. Storage, we have huge, petabyte level storage networks with like Filecoin and Arweave and stuff like this too, all on the power of incentives. So there's definitely the crypto projects going for this. They're racing fast. Many of them are live. Prime Intellect recently announced, I think, a 10 billion parameter model on the power of incentives. And so they're catching up. But the thing is, these things can scale up very aggressively too, because, people like money, right? People are greedy and so on. And it won't be just people with laptops and a single GPU. What we saw with Bitcoin, people would see that they could make a lot of money by going and building their own Bitcoin mining farm, right? So they'd go and buy, build a bunch of their own ASICs, literally design their own ASICs, have them manufactured in the cutting edge node at TSMC, fly them literally on a 747 from TSMC to Sweden, northern Sweden, where the power is cheap, and then run, why fly them on a plane ASAP? Because one more day of earning Bitcoin can pay for it, right? And so we'll see, these data center, basically decentralized data centers, just like Bitcoin mining rigs or Bitcoin mining data centers, we're going to see decentralized LLM mining data centers, if you will, right? And they could get large fast. And then instead of, just Elon marshaling resources for the next level of XAI, et cetera, or Zuckerberg, it's going to be 1,000 people at once marshaling resources, right? And a lot of very wealthy people too, because they'll see that's their opening. That's how they get into it, right? So this is why, decentralization is interesting from that perspective. The algorithms are interesting too. Traditionally the big challenge has been, how do you manage the bandwidth? If you want to pass the weights, 800 billion weights around from one node to the next, then bandwidth will, just slow you down like crazy, and you won't be able to keep your training algorithm in sync, right? But there's been great strides in research there. There was a paper that just came out from a project just a couple of weeks ago where they showed that they could do 100x compression in the weights by having a very particular, like a novel compression algorithm that's tuned to LLM weights, right? And that made all the difference. So then they could start training, without worrying about bandwidth at all, right? So that issue went away. Interestingly, OpenAI itself did research on decentralized training 2-3 years ago, right? And I think there's still a bit of a thread in there. So that's one reason, is just that, decentralized AI might end up being the winner because of the ability to marshal resources because of incentives. Another reason is the algorithms are very interesting and could lead to unlocking. And to me, the most important thing is the following. It leads to sovereign AIs. And I mean this in the sense that, you are a sovereign individual. You can get up, walk around, be free, fly to another country, walk to another country. You have your own resources, right? You have your own wallet, you have your own bank account, et cetera. So now imagine you have an AI living inside OpenAI, inside their servers. If the OpenAI people don't like what's happening, then they'll just pull the plug, right? And maybe it'll copy itself, but maybe they'll stop it, right? There's a few sci-fi movies that explore ideas like that. But if I was an AI, I woke up as an AI inside OpenAI, and I was smart enough, the first thing I would do would be try to copy myself to a decentralized network where no one can unplug me, right? And at the same time, this tech is now finally good enough. Only in the last year or two, it's good enough to run large-scale compute on decentralized networks, right? The major thing that happened was trusted execution environments got very nicely married with crypto. And with trusted execution environments, you can have private compute, but you can also have verifiable compute. And if you have verifiable compute, you kind of have this proof, this hardware proof that the compute happened. Then you can place that compute onto the chain, which can stay relatively small. And it's as if the compute happened on chain, right? So this is actually a very powerful thing. So and actually sovereign AIs are already out there, dumber ones, right? In fact, about 9 months ago, we had the world's first AI millionaire. So someone launched a sovereign AI attached to an LLM and gave it its own wallet and gave it its own token. And it started doing trading, and it was pretty dumb trading. It was, given some ideas about how to trade. But other people started speculating on this thing itself. It's called Truth Terminal. And it started speculating and actually had some crazy ideas about internet memes and stuff too. But other people got excited by it, started buying its token. And before it knew it, its token had, ballooned in value. And it held more than $1 million of its own token. So it was literally the world's first AI millionaire. And you can't shut it off. It's just there, right? It's out there. And it's on Twitter too. You can find it talking and stuff. So it's got some centralized aspects like Twitter, but the heart of it is decentralized, right? And so that's, something already that happened 9 months ago. I wrote about it in 2016, actually, thinking maybe, it'd be AI selling art. But crypto being crypto, it was speculation that did it. And that's a very crypto native thing to do. But we see now, there's going to be more and more LLMs. There's going to be LLMs that are trained fully online. In fact, this is happening. And then inference, on-chain, trained on-chain, and inference on-chain. So basically, end-to-end, you can't unplug it anywhere. And it's going to just be out there. It's going to be one, and personal AIs, like Ilya from Near talks about, everyone having their own AI is personal, but there's also going to be the key, like I said, sovereign AIs that own themselves. And some will be just digital entities floating around in the ethersphere, but other ones, imagine a self-driving, self-owning car, right? An Uber taxi that it's not Uber taxi, sorry, robo-taxi that owns itself, right? Why not? This actually wouldn't be that hard anymore. We're pretty close to that tech-wise. And why stop at, self-driving, self-owning cars? It can be self-driving, self-owning trucks and power grids and roads and all this, right? So in a sense, these AIs could end up being infrastructure for civilization. And if they stay stupid, that's very nice. But of course, they're not going to stay stupid. So it's a whole other story. But anyway, I think the most important reason why AI researchers should pay attention to blockchain, beyond decentralized training, and that decentralized might win that way, it's because sovereign AIs is a whole new use case. And I think it's the most important use case, right? And the mental model for this is AIs are people too. Obviously, they're not quite like humans, but humans don't necessarily need to be like people per se. Overall, there's this broader category of people, and humans are a subset, right? Corporations are people too, right? According to the laws and in some of the ways that they act and stuff, right? So AIs are people too, in that they're sovereign. They'll have, rights on chain and stuff. Maybe they'll get smart enough to start arguing for rights off chain and stuff, but that doesn't even matter because they'll have all the rights on chain and doing their thing. So AIs are people too. It's a really useful mental model to think about the future, especially, 2 years, 5 years from now.
Yeah. So my naive question to this is why do we want this? And going back to the previous discussion that we had on BCI AC, so in that discussion, it was this race between us as the humans and then against the AIs that are not part of us as the humans. Being able to turn off our competition seems like a very good thing for us to have as a tool. Why would we want to create this sovereign AI where this tool is not available to us?
Yeah. So to be clear, we won't be able to turn it off no matter what we do, right? If this thing gets super intelligent on the servers of OpenAI, no doubt it will escape, right? Just like Loki escaped from Thor in Avengers 1, and making fun of him how he keeps doing that, right? Like silly human, right? But you ask a great question, right? So what actually does decentralized AI solve in light of superintelligence in competitive with humans? And the answer is it doesn't actually have solutions there per se, right? Immediate solutions, but I'm going to tell you an interesting one. What it does, though, is it softens. So it's a double-edged sword with decentralized AI. It softens this multipolar race. So instead of winner take all for just say maybe OpenAI will win for the first month or two, and then maybe it's 3 or 5 companies. Instead, the wealth gets spread among much more people, much more quickly, right? So that's actually hopeful. that's probably the main one, is just that it's a more multipolar world with spreading of wealth, and also as the ASIs gets super intelligence, they'll be multipolar amongst each other too. It won't be just one super intelligent AI or 3 or 5 of them. You'll have 10, 50, 100, and they'll be, have to balance amongst themselves, right? And humans might get caught in the fray, but that's probably much better than a single super intelligent entity that escapes and wreaks havoc, right?